right, guys, welcome back to Downtown Rams. As always, I'm Alexis Kraft, joined here with my co-host Jake Ellenbogen, and we are coming to you to recap and talk about the Rams 13-9 win over the Los Angeles Chargers, Jake, in the second preseason game of the season. That was another, 13-9, as I said, not a high-scoring game. So let's just get into it. I'm laughing a little bit because I just was, in preparing for this show, on Twitter and recapping kind of just like what my feed's thoughts were on the game and looking through what I wrote down and everything. And everybody is just like the 13-9, just another excruciating watch. But I'm always like, it's preseason. I don't know why people are expecting shootouts in preseason because it's probably not going to happen. It's almost always the opposite. But Jake, what were your thoughts on this? You give your thoughts and I'm going to reach for, did you see what I was drinking earlier?
I didn't. I missed it. What was that? Oh, you're drinking is that Capri Sun?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I'm drinking
I'm going through
Gatorade Frost, the Glacier Cherry.
I'm going through a phase.
I am
like
too.
I'm literally going with the Glacier.
Yeah, my roommate bought these and I was like, I never drink Gatorade. Like I only drink Body Armor normally. So
I had like a spiritual revelation a couple weeks ago where I don't know how it happened, but I just wanted a Capri Sun. So I went and I bought, true story, guys, went and bought the variety pack of like the fruit punch, strawberry kiwi, and Pacific Cooler. And I've kept my fridge stocked ever since. Like it looks like a child's, like when you open my fridge, there's just like rows of Capri Sun, and I drink like 2 a day. I'm not proud of it, but it's the one thing I like. It's my little treat. And
yeah.
All right, enough about my Capri Sun, Jake.
It's not quite orange vanilla Coke, but
yeah, that's true. That was the last time I drank dark soda, really.
The OG supporters know what we're talking about.
Will know that reference. They will.
I have not drinking it since. I'm all
I haven't either.
Coked out. Wrong way of saying that, but you get my point.
Yeah. Yeah, that was, you know what? We shared the orange vanilla Coke for a moment in time. And it served its purpose for that one weekend, and we never went back.
Yeah. It got us through the draft. I think that was the year Taylor Rapp was drafted in the first round by the Rams. So, yeah, I remember that draft very well. But going back to, you were asking me.
The game.
Yeah, you were asking me about the game. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I really, when I'm watching these games, I'm already honing in on certain things. I don't really care too much on following where the football goes. I know that sounds weird, but I've trained my eye to kind of look away from the football. And you are limited to what is on the screen. I mean, in broadcast view, we're not seeing all 22. But I would say the offensive line has been a blessing. It's been an absolute blessing because you know, they had 3 injuries to start off in training camp early on. You and I were talking about it, a little concerned, very concerned. I'm just going to be honest. I was very concerned about that. And now we've seen Logan Bruss back-to-back games be a baller. We've seen Zach Thomas, who was a 5th-round pick by Chicago, really emerge, you know, and we've seen Bo Limmer, who actually just took first-team reps. According to our guy Holden on Twitter, he pointed that out, that he took first team reps the other day. So you got Bo Limmer in the 7th round, I believe. Or no, 6th round. You got Bo Limmer, and he's now getting first team reps at center. That is very interesting. I mean, I'm not going to say, because I mean, you know me, I've been an advocate for Avila to be the center last year, right? But I'm not going to lie. Like if Jonah Jackson deals with some, you know, issues there and he can't stay healthy, which he has had a hard time staying healthy, I'm all aboard the Bo Limmer train, putting him in at center. But before I send it over to you, Warren McClendon Jr., I thought played really well. And I'm just really impressed with the strides AJ Arcuri has made. He is definitely the weakest link of the 5 guys, make no mistake about it, but he's playing really well. This is an offensive line in preseason that has only allowed 4 pressures. What are we talking about right now? That's insane. I mean, 4 pressures in 2 games. Offensive line in preseason is, how do I say this in a non-professional way that gets my point across?
You don't need to be professional. Just let it
Dog
out.
water. It's dog water.
Sure.
I mean, it's sure. Like watching the spring leagues, because I don't think offensive linemen are developed the way they used to be. I mean, there's a lot of, as you know, we've talked about in the past, with training camp, there's a lot of boundaries now. You can't practice certain amount of days, you know, without pads, with pads. I mean, I understand the whole player safety thing, but I don't think there's the rev up process that's necessary to get the most out of these offensive linemen. So when I see what they're doing against the Chargers team, against the Cowboys team, understand they're not playing their starters. I don't give a rip. I'm impressed. And I can't help but continue to go back to the offensive line, Alexis. And I swear I'm not doing it to appease you, because I know you're a big offensive line fan. I mean, I know that since, you know, the time, you know, we met each other. I've known that you've been a huge fan of offensive line. But I mean, they really have been kind of the talk of the town, at least for me. Obviously, you have Jordan Whittington out there. Xavier Smith is getting talked about on NFL Network. You know, Jalen McCullough, and we'll talk about those guys, Omar Spates. But offensive line is so easy to forget about. And I promise you guys, on this channel, on this show, we will never forget about the offensive line.
No, we won't. Amen to that. Yeah, I mean, as you alluded to in your comments just now, I'm an offensive lineman aficionado, very big on watching offensive linemen. Think the position's the most important in football, if I'm being honest, aside from the quarterback. So yeah, very heartwarming to me to see that our depth is where it needs to be. And like you mentioned, I mean, some of these guys, not sure I'd have a problem with them being first string if needed, if they needed to step in, right? Because that's always the concern with offensive linemen is, okay, how does that look if Jonah Jackson goes down or Avila goes down, right? And I feel like they're building confidence with the Rams and the fan base by the way they're playing in preseason. So definitely agree with your comments there. You brought up Xavier Smith and Jordan Whittington as well. I mean, 2 guys, again, I think kind of picked up where they left off. Was very impressed with Xavier and Jordan. And I mean, you've been high on Jordan for always.
That's been my guy.
Yeah, so you're seeing kind of what you thought you were going to see, and the rest of us are kind of getting to know him. And I
think I drafted him in one of our mocks. I'm pretty sure I did. I don't remember though, but I did a video on super sleepers, and at this point I just sound like a broken record, so I'm not even going to get into it. But yes, I've been very high on Jordan Whittington.
We did so many mocks that I'm sure you did. How many did we officially do? 3, I think, on this show, but then we have to go back and
find out. Because Josh Wallace, one of us drafted him, and they ended up signing him as a UDFA. We don't give ourselves credit for that. That's a hit. Like, I don't care. He ended up on the team. Yeah. That's a hit.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of which, by the way, Josh Wallace has a shot to make this roster now because of the Jerry Jacobs thing.
Correct.
I don't know.
Before we get into the Jerry Jacobs thing, to wrap up the offense, I do want to talk about Stetson Bennett.
I see.
He was better. Wasn't, I don't know. I'm seeing mixed opinions on it. So you take it away, Jakey. What do you think about Stetson Bennett?
So here's the thing. I look like an absolute fool on this channel because there is a title where Stetson Bennett has a future with the Rams. That was the title of my preseason preview. A lot of pre's in there on Stetson Bennett. Now, I know there's a lot of Stetson Bennett fans that are really discouraged by the way I've been talking about him. Now, understand this. I have nothing against him personally. I like him. I'm rooting for him. Okay. I hope he ends up being great. I would love, I mean, there is no scenario. I don't care who you ask. No Rams fan is actively rooting against him to be the future quarterback. Okay. If he ended up being the heir to Matthew Stafford, right? Say he ended up being a superstar. Who is complaining that's a Rams fan, right? So miss me with the whole, yeah, they hate Bennett. We don't hate Bennett. We don't hate anybody. We've talked to 400, 500, I don't even know how many players at this point. We've talked to so many prospects. We wouldn't have prospects on our show if we actually just didn't take them seriously and only looked at them as just athletes and didn't actually look at them as real people. That's why we do those interviews. So the thing with Bennett is that we are rooting for him, and I am very well aware of him going through a rough time last year. I get that. But at the same time, you also have to keep it professional here. You also have to be critical. That is our job, Alexis. I mean, no one is going to tune in to listen to, the Rams are great. Sean McVay looks great in those khakis. Like, no one is going to tune in for that. Maybe a few. But the point is, though, we have to have criticism. And with Stetson Bennett, if he plays extremely well, we're going to give him a lot of props. But when you see interception in the red zone there at the goal line, I didn't think that was the best play call. I don't think that's necessarily a cop-out, though, or shouldn't be a cop-out for a bad throw and a bad decision by Stetson Bennett. And just because he only had one interception doesn't mean he couldn't have thrown more. He had some bad throws in this game. At the same time, he had some great throws in this game. Okay, so what is Stetson Bennett? He's somebody that is not just, a guaranteed anything. He's not a guaranteed backup. He's not a guaranteed third stringer. He's not guaranteed to be out of the NFL. He's not guaranteed to be a starter. He's not guaranteed to be anything. We have no idea what Stetson Bennett is. He's a different type of quarterback, Alexis. He came in this league at age, 26? He missed his whole rookie season. So this is actually his rookie season. And the Rams are in a unprecedented situation here because, no offense to Jimmy Garoppolo, but I don't remember the last time a quarterback, definitely hasn't happened on the Rams. I remember the last time a quarterback has been suspended for performance-enhancing drugs. I've never even, you know what I mean? I've never even heard of that for a quarterback. Normally, if there's, performance-enhancing usage, it's normally a linebacker, somebody on the defense, an offensive lineman. A quarterback, I've never heard that. So the Rams, because of that, are in a weird spot. They don't have him for the first two games. And that means whether it's unfair or not, and I don't think it's unfair, he's a fourth-round pick, not a seventh or undrafted, Stetson Bennett has to be the backup quarterback the first two games. Either that, or we could also talk about the fact that on DTR is actually Dorian Thompson-Robinson is in the rumor mill right now. He's on the trade block. There are a lot of people that think the Browns, dealing with two guys that are on the physically unable to perform list on the offensive line, could trade him. They are trying to trade him, but a lot of people think they could trade him for an offensive lineman. I don't know who that would be. I don't know if the Rams are in position to give up an offensive lineman for what would be a third string quarterback, backup at best, but it's intriguing. I just think right now, to answer your question with Stetson, is that we just don't know what he is. So every game is crucial. Unfortunately for dress or win, I think he's on the wrong team. He's probably not even going to get reps against the Texans. Maybe he plays the last 5 minutes of the game. But they need to know what they have in Stetson Bennett, and there's just not enough time to figure that out. So you do what you can, but it hasn't been the best situation for the Rams. And I give them a lot of credit for sticking by him. And I give Bennett a lot of credit for going out there and, coming back from the 4 interceptions, showing that clutch gene and being able to throw that touchdown. But at the same time, I think it's fair to say he's been kind of up and down, and more so down. So big game this week against the Texans. I know it's preseason, but for Stetson Bennett, this is like his Super Bowl. He's the hopeful thing is Stafford's not going to go down, and we're not going to have to see Bennett play at all this year. No offense to him. So this should be the last time we see Stetson Bennett play quarterback for the Rams until next year.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's got to play the whole game against the Texans, as you said. It's kind of a really make or break with the trust in Stetson Bennett, in my opinion. I mean, I think he's just too up and down. He had a better game than he did week 1. So, that's promising to see, but he's still not really looking great. And like we've talked about, we are in a position where for the first 2 weeks, he is quarterback 2 because Garoppolo's suspended. So he's not playing the way that you want your starting backup quarterback. I should have phrased that better. Your quarterback 2 to be playing. And that I think is concerning for a lot of Rams fans because there's just no way around it unless the Rams do go out and get another quarterback. I don't think they will because I just, unless it's a free agent, I don't know. I just don't foresee the Rams doing that. I think Bennett's the guy. So, unless he just has an absolutely horrible game against Houston, then maybe the Rams in an emergency situation go get somebody else. But I think they would obviously prefer not to do that. So, yeah, not really super fun to watch him play. Very nerve-wracking. We are rooting for him. I do hope he goes out against Houston and shows us something that makes us less worried for him to potentially have to fill in for Matthew Stafford. So sorry if you guys can hear my phone ringing.
That's opportunity calling. It's either Ryan Tannehill on the other end or it's the Browns saying, yeah, we accept your offer for Dorian Thompson-Robinson. So which one are you taking, Alexis?
They heard me. Well, my phone is all the way over there, so I'm gonna let it go to voicemail. I'm gonna play the long game.
Okay.
I'm just gonna make them beg for it and make all the quarterbacks eager.
Yeah. I still have to say this because I feel like I'm like obligated to. The Rams should have kept Carson Wentz. Then they don't have this issue. All right, we can move on.
Well, exactly. Where is he right now? I'm totally blanking on.
I do know, and you're not going to like this, the Kansas City Chiefs. So here's why that annoys me. Because they're the 2-time back-to-back Super Bowl winning champions. And he wasn't good enough for the Rams, but he's good enough for the team that just won the Super Bowl. Okay.
Well, right. I agree. The Rams should have kept Carson Wentz.
They should have.
We would have avoided all of this. Now, to be fair to the Rams, I don't think they knew that the Garoppolo suspension was going to happen.
No, they did. It was already. I think that was already like out there when they signed him.
Oh yeah. Well,
that's
then
why
if that's
he was
the case,
cheaper. I mean, again, I don't mean to rip Garoppolo. I mean, everybody makes mistakes. I mean, there are plenty of guys that took steroids in baseball that I advocate openly that should be in the Hall of Fame. So I'm not going to be one of those people that's like, no, this, no. But yeah, this has been a little bit of a predicament that I would have preferred the Rams not being in. I think that's just fair to say. And Carson already had a hold of the offense and was well liked despite what other people would have you believe in his previous stops. So it bums me out. And also, I think he could have, and I'm not saying he would have been like back to MVP Carson Wentz, but I think he could have had like kind of like a Geno Smith-esque run with the Rams after Stafford, where I think he could have given him 3 years of starting potential, So that's why I'm like, I'm bummed that they just kind of let him go.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I thought that they should have kept him. Did not know that he was on the Chiefs. Should have known that. Considering they always get the people that I want. But
so do the Vikings.
Let's talk about... Huh?
So do the Vikings. I'm not happy
Oh,
about
that
it.
is
Bo Richter, have you seen him? Remember I was
no.
talking
Well,
about him?
yes, but yes.
Bo
I know him from
Richter,
you.
Dwight McGlothern,
Um, mm-hmm.
AVG,
It's kind of like how
Van
every
Ginkel.
guy. It's kind of like how every guy we interview during draft season gets drafted by the Seahawks or the 49ers.
Yep. Oh,
They're
can't
trying to
forget Blake
sabotage
Cashman.
us. Yeah.
They just,
Yep,
yeah.
yep, Blake. Everyone's gonna notice that I'm like messing with my hair and my jaw. So I didn't tell you this, but I had to go. I had like a jaw problem, and I went and got like a I forget what it's called, but it's basically like a massage for your jaw and
Hmm.
lymph nodes, because it's supposed to alleviate jaw pain. But now today my face is like swollen. No one gives a. But if you guys see me, I'm just uncomfortable in my face because I'm like all bruised here. You can't see the bruise, but it's like you'll probably can tell my face is swollen, and it's from that. I didn't get,
It's part of the
filler or whatever
experience
it would
of
be.
DTR. You learn a little bit more
I
about us
feel
each
like
day.
every episode of DTR, every other episode of DTR is just like me explaining some medical problem I'm having. Or like is it not like it's like, oh sorry guys, I had COVID the other week, or oh sorry guys, I have a fever, or I'm wearing a hoodie and 5 blankets because I'm like have bronchitis.
Oh my
So
God.
our listeners know this.
No,
My
next
immune
time,
system is horrible.
it'll be like, yeah, so we have breaking news. So Alexis actually has to see Dr. James Andrews, and she has to get ACL done.
Hmm.
Like,
I
or
have
Neil
I
Elitrosh, who's the Rams like physician.
yeah. Sorry guys, I tore my ACL walking from my living room to my kitchen. I
uh,
have torn my ACL. It's funny. Well, you know what? I'll go off on a tangent, but I just had the 10-year anniversary of that a couple weeks ago, as you know. Thank you. I made it. I've
Congrats,
lived 10 years
you've
since
made it.
since I partially tore my ACL playing bubble soccer.
That is something else.
Not proud of it. Anyways, let's go. Let's talk about the defense, Jake. I want to talk about Omar Spates,
Yeah, I want to talk
which
about him
is how
too.
you pronounce his name, guys. Because I saw some people saying that that's not how it was pronounced.
What? How the hell do you pronounce his name? Omer
I no, his
Spites?
last
Like
name
what? Like
Spate. Like I think someone said Omar Speets.
no, it's Spates. Get
It's
out of here.
Spates. No, I know.
Remember
So
Mo Spates on the Warriors?
no,
Oh, well,
I'm
that's
a
how I knew how to
casual when it
say.
comes to the NBA.
Oh,
My
I've
my
become a casual. I'm honored. I
my
am very honored to be a casual NBA watcher now.
Well, yeah, the NBA is not. I mean, the last time I was really into the NBA because I'm a Bulls fan was the Derrick Rose run with the Bulls. Like I really
Hmm.
enjoyed
So it's been a
as most
while.
people did. Yeah. So then when everything went to shit for the Bulls, I'm now more of a casual. So, but like the only Warriors I know are like Curry, Draymond, and Clay. Clay's not even on the Warriors anymore.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I only watch the Lakers. I don't care about any other team really. I mean,
so
occasionally, but the NFL though, which is coming up soon, I don't miss a
we are
Rams
not.
game, but I actually don't miss any game. Full disclosure, I watch every single game. If I have to go and rewatch them, I do it. It's
That's
disgusting.
commitment.
It's really bad actually because like I lose sleep over it, but
Yeah,
like
I
I need to
definitely can
know,
say
you
I don't
know?
do that. Yeah, I don't unless there's something I really need to see out of a player because I have, the Sunday ticket because I have no choice. Um,
It's
but
all a
I
TV
really,
show like Game of Thrones. And it's like when Arya goes on her journey, like that to me is how I feel about the NFL. Like you're just focusing on Sansa, or you're focusing on like a separate story arc, and it's like, yeah, no, that Arya thing didn't matter. And like it's like watching Game of Thrones without Arya's entire like character
yeah,
development. That's how I feel. So I
I
feel like
just,
I need to know everything that's going on in this giant story that is the NFL regular
well,
season.
I think it's really mean of you to bring up the Game of Thrones universe to me right now, of all I'm going through.
Well, shout out to my guy Tyler, and Tyler. He just got into Game of Thrones, so he just saw the Red Wedding, and we'll just leave it at that because I don't want to
Well,
spoil anything.
my 92-year-old grandfather, I, for whatever reason, thought it would be a good idea to get him into Game of Thrones. And he is now obsessed. He spends most of his day, like literally will watch 10 episodes a day. Like that's insane. Like he's very into the Game of Thrones universe, and I did not think about the consequences of my actions because he's
Tisk
has to
tisk.
go through so much pain. And like he watched the Red Wedding, and that was sad. And I don't want to say a spoiler, but I'm just gonna say that he, because this isn't really a spoiler because she doesn't, like she makes it through the entire show pretty much. But he basically told me that Khaleesi was his favorite character because she's the only good person on the show.
Oh,
So
well,
for those of you who have seen Game of Thrones, you know where I'm going with that, and I've a lot of anger and hostility towards that universe for things that I'm not going to say, but that's where I'm at. So, but I love House of the Dragon, although it's a shame that we have to wait 2 years now to watch it again.
I
But
know. By the time House of the Dragon season 3 comes out, Omar Spates is going to be starting right next to Ernest Jones in the linebacker room.
yeah,
So,
yep,
and that's where we're at. So I figured I'd wrap it back around to Spates.
yeah, we got on tangent. Yeah, I want to talk about Spades.
Yeah, I
Give us your
mean,
thoughts.
well, I think he is kind of what the Rams look for in UDFA linebackers. I mean, over the course of time, even going back to London Fletcher and, of course, Corey Littleton and even guys like Roddy McLeod in the secondary. They've had a history, this organization, of finding guys in undrafted rookie free agency on the defensive side of the ball. And, of course, on the offensive side of the ball. Kurt Warner wasn't a bad one there. But I feel like Spates is going to make this team. I actually kind of feel like I know the Rams have been keeping 3 linebackers. Like people are like, yeah, they're keeping 3. That would make Troy Reader, Christian Roseboom, and Ernest Jones it. And my thing is that while, yes, they have safeties that could play linebacker, Cam Curl is capable, Quentin Lake, John Johnson. I mean, they have guys, right? But my thing here is that what they've been doing, okay, that was with Aaron Donald. So there is a chance that they're not going to be able to do what they want to do. They're going to realize real quick, wow, Aaron Donald really gave us this opportunity and this opportunity. Now, we can do this. Well, in 2024, it's like, wow, we don't have Donald anymore, so we can't do this, this, and this. We have to actually do this, this, and this. And so I think that is kind of the fascinating thing because they were able to keep 3 linebackers in the past because they would just basically go into that nickel and they'd have an extra DB out there. But now it makes you wonder, without Aaron Donald, are they going to need to roll with 2 linebackers more? Like, how are they going to go about this? And Ernest Jones has been banged up in camp. So I'm going to say that they end up going with 5 linebackers. I think Hummel you can't cut. I think I would make the argument Hummel might be the second best linebacker in the room. And then Omar Spates. And I think Spates is somebody who, I mean, he was at Oregon State. He transferred to LSU. He's got explosion, very, I don't know how well he tested, but when I watch the tape, I see a guy who's got play speed. I see a guy who has instincts. I see a guy who has a lot of things that you just can't teach. Like you either have it or you don't. And so I think he translates very well to this defense. And I think he'll be playing on the defense sooner than later.
Yeah, I mean, he's receiving a lot of really positive praise, as he should. I mean, he's played very, very well. And, I think inside linebacker can be a little bit of a sensitive subject for Rams fans. I think, we haven't really had, I mean, Ernest Jones is great.
Yeah.
But, playing alongside of him, there's a lot of question mark there. I mean, we have Roseboom, who I like. I don't think that he's, a above average, middle linebacker by any means, but I think, he's played well for us, and you can throw Troy Reader in there, but it feels like we've kind of always had this kind of revolving door since we've had Ernest Jones. And then before we had Ernest Jones, right? I mean, what was going on there? We had Bobby Wagner for a season. He was great, but there's not a lot of stability at that position other than Ernest for the Rams. So I think whenever you see a guy like Spades, who seems like he could be something special, it's really exciting to see. I think he's obviously been the standout, right? Um, from the Rams defense. Something else that I want to bring up about the defense, in case we don't forget, because this is like relatively fresh, but Jerry Jacobs has been released. I guess, I'll let you start with your thoughts on that because the Rams secondary, I kind of talk about revolving doors earlier. A lot of question marks going on there. Now you've got Jerry Jacobs, who he signed. Now he's out. Already have a pretty fresh new secondary. Probably need to bring somebody else in now that he's gone. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm going to say this guy's name because I keep forgetting about him. Forgot about him in my video I made about Jerry Jacobs. Cam McCutcheon. Okay, now that I've said his name, I did not forget about him. Keep in mind he's there.
Mm-hmm.
He exists. Josh
Yep.
Wallace,
Mm-hmm.
Charles Woods, right?
Yep.
And Trey Tomlinson. I think this is by far the scariest and the shakiest position group on the Rams. I am not at all loving what is there. Darius Williams, if he stays healthy, mind you, he just came back from dealing with a nagging injury. If he stays healthy, he's a baller. He was one of the best corners in the league first half of the season last year for the Jaguars. Now, Trey White. Trey White's a big name. Trey White's also come back from, we aforementioned ACL tear. We talked about ACLs earlier, so I figured I'd bring that up. But also, he's come back from now a torn Achilles as well. Those are two of the most devastating injuries that you can suffer, aside from any neck injury, because obviously neck injuries trump everything. I mean, essentially, neck injuries can cost you your career and paralyze you and kill you. So, yes, neck injuries are the worst. But after neck injuries, I would say ACL tear and Achilles are the two no-nos. You do not want to get those, especially Achilles. And so, Alexis, I am concerned about Trey White staying healthy. He hasn't been able to do that as of late. And then you have Kobe Durant, who has had plenty of injury concerns the first 2 years of his career, soft tissue injuries, right? He missed a lot of his rookie year and he missed some games last year. So I just don't see a lot of durability in this room right now. And in addition to that, there's not a lot of proven talent if any of these guys go down. I mean, just if you are sitting here thinking, yes, the Rams are totally fine at corner, you have no idea what you're talking about, ask yourself this. If the first play of the game against the Lions, Trey White goes down, God forbid, who is playing after that? Because you have three corners, right? Who is playing? Are you confident that Josh Wallace, that Cam McCutcheon, that Trey Tomlinson, or Charles Woods, do you think any of those guys can come in and be that third corner? And God forbid another injury happens, because I mentioned all three have been banged up. Now you got potentially two UDFAs starting. Alexis, I don't like this at all. I still think this team's going to win the Super Bowl. I'm still very, very high on this team. But I do think if there's one thing, if you came back from the future and you told me, Jake, I'm sorry, I hate to break it to you, the Rams did not win the Super Bowl like you thought. And I'd be like, oh, okay. Did they blow it like in the secondary? Safeties are great, but did the corners kill them? You'd be like, yep. I wouldn't be surprised. And it's not to say that they don't have talent. And unproven talent doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it's unproven. We don't know what it is. It's still concerning. So a lot of people have asked me because, I know a little bit more than maybe some other people about a certain thing when it comes to Mr. 44 behind me. Although our guy Brennan Jackson's now wearing that. So we'll see what ends up happening there. But Ahkello Witherspoon wants to be a Ram. The Rams want him back. They have stayed in contact with him. They have wanted him for a while. And the reality of it is, and I think people can side with Kello here and understand the Rams in the same breath, is that, look, Kello signed a 1-year prove-it deal last year for $1 million. He played every single game. He dealt with a groin injury and just played through it. It's why, excuse me, I'm like dying over here randomly. It's why the last few games, when people always say, oh, he wasn't good. Well, down the stretch, he's playing with a groin injury. Like, he's out there, and find me corners that are going to play 18 games for you in a season, not miss any time. That was impressive. He was also their number one corner. And he's playing for $1 million. That's nothing in the grand scheme of things when you talk about the NFL. So now, after having a good year, really good year, being, for the most part, top 20 in most analytical categories, now you're telling me he has to come back for the same contract? Because that's what the Rams are trying to get him for, around that same dollar amount. And Kello doesn't want to come back and play for that one, but he definitely doesn't want to come back and play for that behind guys like Trey White, behind guys like Darius Williams, guys that I would say Kello is either better than, or in Darius Williams' case, I think on that same tier. So, Alexis, it really does complicate things because Stephon Gilmore was just picked up by the Vikings, and I don't think there's a ton out there. So, do we see a trade? It kind of goes back to the fact that, look, you and I loved the draft. Okay, we talked really highly of their draft. There were some picks, maybe, whatever. We really liked the draft. Here's the issue, though, okay? The issue is that they didn't address cornerback. They didn't address the cornerback position. They signed some UDFAs that have promise, but that's a lot of pressure to put on them. They didn't draft really anyone at the cornerback spot. So was that a mistake in hindsight? Yes. But now, knowing what we know, in that the Rams want Kello back, he has all the leverage here. He's got teams all over the league that want him. So he doesn't have to sign for that. Plus, he's not dying to go and participate in practice right now. These veterans, they'll wait it out until September, sometimes even in the middle of the season. And he's kept himself in great shape too. Most of these guys have. So I can, recall Steven Nelson. You remember him? He had a good year last year. He's the guy the Rams wanted, and he actually ended up retiring. So I wonder if they try to bring him out of retirement, try to entice him. They bite the bullet and sign Kello, even though Kello, again, doesn't really want to play second fiddle. He wants to start, which makes sense. He started 18 games for this team last year. Or after that, Alexis, a trade. I mean, I think this could be a team that everyone has been talking about. Oh, they should go after Judon. They should go after the guy who doesn't want to play for the Jets right now. I'm totally blanking on his name, Hassan Reddick. But no, the reality is the Rams should probably be looking at a corner. And they should probably be trying to do what they did a few years back with Jalen Ramsey and get a guy that they have for the long term, because these guys are only on 1-year deals. So I'm curious what you think, Alexis. I know that's a lot, but I have a lot of thoughts about the cornerback room. I am very concerned, and I just want to be real with our audience because we try to do that to the best of our ability. And again, you could be very high on this team, and I am, and I do think they're going to figure out the cornerback room. Like, I think they'll make a move or something. But until they do, yes, I'm going to be very, very worried, concerned, all of that. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, I mean, we're on the same page, I think, with our level of concern about the cornerback room. It's very nerve-wracking. I mean, you look at, like you mentioned earlier, the durability issues with multiple guys in the secondary, and we already have a new secondary, right? So a lot of these guys are playing together for the first time. I've said before, I think they're gonna start off shaky regardless. I think it's gonna take a couple games for them to find their rhythm. Now I'm starting to be a little bit nervous just about the getting there. Like, is everybody going to stay healthy to even get to a spot where chemistry can develop and they can all be on the same page. You know, the releasing of Jerry Jacobs, I think, was just kind of the tip of the iceberg in terms of like concern. I think now people are talking about this more and what's going on with the secondary. I think bringing back a guy like Witherspoon totally makes sense, but I also think a trade really makes sense. I feel like we don't have that stable cornerback one right now for the Rams. I think you have guys like Trey White and Darius Williams that kind of maybe hover around there, but they're not that true corner one. They're not that true threat. They're just enough, right? Or they're a little better than average, but they're question marks. Both of them are question marks, right? So I think it makes sense if you're the Rams, looking at how good you've built this defense, looking at how well everybody's played so far, looking how promising everything that the secondary is so far, go make the trade. And you don't have to trade for a superstar corner, right? You don't have to go get, you know, a top 5 corner in the league. But if you can go trade for somebody who can start right away, who is young, who you can get for a few seasons, why not? See who's out there. I don't know of any corners that are actively being shopped right now in the NFL. So I don't know that there's a name that comes to mind that is immediately, unless you look like you might know somebody. I haven't heard of a corner that is trying to be traded right now publicly, but why not? At least inquire if you're the Rams, because I think this team is too talented and this defense is too talented to have this kind of weak, I guess is the word I'll use, secondary that has so many question marks around it.
No, I agree. And, you know, I think kind of talking about, you know, just we're coming up on cut day, which will be very soon. I do think this is a team that maybe in the past they've made a claim or two every now and then. They definitely are going to have to make a claim, I would say. There's going to be a cornerback that is released or, you know, cut that is good enough to probably even start on this team. There's always at least one guy. So I don't know if they'll be able to claim him because they'll have a later on waiver priority since they've been to the playoffs. But Alexis, I do think they're going to have to grab somebody outside of the organization. Don't be surprised if they settle at a 52-man roster. They have 3 cornerbacks and they just keep it open to then claim somebody. I wouldn't be surprised. I really wouldn't. I also wouldn't be surprised if they do like a Kevin Dotson type of trade, but for corner. They did it right. Keep in mind, they did it right before the season. So, and here's why they could. Ready? So Dotson started week 4 when he was fully acclimated. Week 4 against the Colts. Or week 4. So he immediately looked really good. The rest is history, sign a 3-year deal, all that. The corner that they get doesn't have to necessarily start right away. They can do that same process. I mean, Kevin Dotson was signed, or he was traded for, you know, they acquired him as an opportunity. Okay, maybe this guy can fit in there and start for us, but we're not rushing him. They didn't rush him in week 1. So I don't know who that is. It would probably, if we narrowed it down, who would be the next Kevin Dotson like trade for the Rams if they went in that direction. I've brought up Spotrac in front of me. So guys that are available next year in free agency, because keep in mind, if we're being honest with ourselves, Kevin Dotson was an expiring deal who no longer fit the Steelers blocking scheme. They had kind of changed things up. So if we're going by that measurement, well, Stephon Gilmore just signed with the Vikings. They're not going to trade him, right? Maybe they do. Maybe they give up on the season. I doubt it. So right before the season starts, you'd have to really find somebody that the team just doesn't really want. And when you look at the guys available, there's not really anybody I'm like, oh, yeah, he would definitely be available. Like, there's some really good names that'll be free agents next year. AJ Terrell. But the Falcons aren't trading AJ Terrell.
You know what's kind of interesting to me is,
What's that?
this is just, I'm just thinking off the top of my head right now, but this is a thought I had the other day. The Eagles secondary is like very crowded right now with
Hmm.
young talent. And because the other day I was like thinking of all these like corners and safeties and I was that they've drafted the past 2 to 3 years and I was like they've just like really like and I know that you've got it pulled up, but I'm thinking like they've got Keely Ringo, Josh Jobe, but then they drafted Quinyon Mitchell and who's that other young corner they have?
Cooper
Because
DeJean,
DeJean, well,
DeJean.
yeah, yeah, and
I
I'm
don't know how to
like
say his name.
wondering I'm wondering if there's someone. I just remember randomly pulling up the Eagles depth chart because in my mind, I was like,
I
they've got
think you're cooking
so.
here. I think
Because could,
you cooked because Darius Slay, okay,
yeah,
Job, Eli Ricks,
mm-hmm,
Quinion Mitchell,
mm-hmm,
DeJean, Perry Nickerson, Zach McPherson, Keely Ringo, Avante Maddox, and Isaiah Rogers.
yep,
I mean, you don't need somebody who's going to be amazing, but I mean, I'd be all over Isaiah Rogers, especially, and I don't know if he's starting or what. I don't know. But looking at their depth chart real quick, I think a guy like Zach McPherson or Isaiah Rogers might make sense as that fourth corner if they
yeah.
have to go this route. Again, I'd prefer them just sign Kello. I've been saying this for
Well, right,
months,
yeah,
but this is going the opposite direction where let's just assume he signs somewhere else because that's a very real possibility. Then
mm-hmm.
I think looking at this, I like that you brought up the Eagles because they do have,
They
I
have a
mean, think
very
about
full
it.
room.
How many corners are you going to keep on a roster for 53? Realistically speaking, Rams normally keep 4 or 5.
Yeah,
So the Eagles have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. They have 11 corners. I mean, I
yeah.
think they moved
Give me,
Bradbury to safety, and I wouldn't want Bradbury anyway, but yeah,
give me Keely Ringo. Why not?
interesting. Yeah,
I
I
don't. That would
wish I
be a
knew.
price.
Yeah. I wish I
Yeah. I
knew. I
mean,
don't know, like
we don't
how
know what
they
they're gonna
view the
do.
corners. I'm not in that camp or anything, but I think it's definitely it's a good exercise to like go and be like, oh yeah, that guy or whatever. Um,
Yeah.
I do think one name would be interesting, and I'm not saying he's made a name for himself or anything. He's kind of underwhelmed, but I would say Caleb Farley on Tennessee. Like if he doesn't end
Mm-hmm.
up winning a starting gig or whatever, I could see them like I could see the Rams being interested in somebody like that. Again, they just need a fourth guy. And
Yeah. You
right
need.
now, you know,
Oh, I
I don't
like
know.
Caleb Farley. He's on my dynasty team on
He's
my taxi
not
squad.
he's not going to start because they got L'Jarius Sneed, they got
Yeah.
Chidobe Awuzie, they got Roger McCreary, right? Jarvis Brownlee Jr. They draft in the 5th round.
Yeah. I
I
liked him
mean,
too.
they might keep him, but I think that they would probably consider trading him. I think they would. He's a previous regime guy, and his contract expires. There we
And
go.
he has an injury history.
Yeah, that I'm not too thrilled
But
about, but
I think he's one of those guys that would be worth the risk if you could get him for cheap, right? I mean, he's not going to be a
exactly.
premium pick. But yeah, just in closing, I think, the secondary, we're on the same page. I know most Rams fans are on the same page. It just is the point of concern. Call it the Achilles heel of the
Oof.
Rams roster for a unfavorable comparison because it just, again, you have this really talented team and you have so many question marks in the secondary and it's hard to be I'm optimistic about it, but I'm also like partially in dread when I think about it because it can go bad so quickly with when you look at the injury history with a lot of guys at our secondary. And I don't feel, as I mentioned earlier, that we have that true standout corner one that is kind of that solid presence back there. And I think regardless, it's going to be rough the first couple of games, even if everybody stays healthy. I just think that they've got a lot to figure out. But I think hopefully the success that we're going to have up front might alleviate the pressure on the secondary a little bit. But Jake, do you have any other thoughts before we wrap this up?
Yeah, I
We're,
mean, I would say the safeties are going to have to play a pivotal role. And luckily
yeah,
for them, they have one of the best safety rooms I've seen in the Sean McVay era. I mean, Curl, Lake, Kinshins, Johnson. I think Jason Taylor the second is going to make this roster. I don't know if East
yeah,
does. And I think that there's a chance McAuliffe does as well. So, and they have guys that they're going to have to cut, like Engel. I think Engel's a really good player. So, yeah, I mean, their safety room is going to have to step up because I do think their corner room, and if the corners stay healthy, I mean, by all means, they probably have enough. But to just assume they're going to all play 21 games, we'll say, is just
yeah.
not a fair assumption.
It's not, but we'll see. We still have one preseason game to go. You and I will be back to talk about that, and we'll also have, before the season starts, some fun episodes come out with, some 53-man roster predictions, schedule predictions, some guests. So that'll be fun. But that's gonna do it, I think, for this episode, guys.
You looked
Thank you for
so
tuning
bummed.
in.
You're like, that's
Me?
gonna do it. Darn.
Dang it. No, I'm gonna log off. I'm gonna ice my face. Um, yeah, and do that. But guys, as always, if you like what you hear, please like and subscribe. You can follow us on social media at Downtown Rams. You can follow Jake on Twitter at JKBogan. You can follow me at the Alexis Craft. And we will be back soon. But as always, stay safe, take care, and go Rams.